Hello YouTube. Today we're going to talk about a topic that's all the rage and setting fire on the English-speaking Twitter and beyond. Indexing is very important to us, the French. Indexing is, namely the de-indexing. Basically, there's a topic that's pretty hot because recently with the Google update, it's been something a lot of people talked about. For me, it's something where I've seen things that were pretty crazy. I'm thinking, especially of a SEO page that was probably making 100,000 euros a month that got de-indexed, so the page completely disappears from Google, even though it's a highly visited, highly monetized, highly aggressive, highly linked page. So it's quite crazy what detoxification can create. And so now we are going to quickly see what he says about the English-speaking world, and then I'll tell you. So if you have a few tutorials on how to tell if a page is indexed or not very quickly. Why do you make ambixes? Why is your site not indexed? Why are your pages being removed from Google? And finally, why do you have URLs that are not indexing? And to conclude, solutions for indexing, quite simply. So here we are on my screen. Boom. So this is kind of the subject on the English-speaking side. You'll see there's Jacky Chou, for example. That guy is really great. Don't hesitate to check out his YouTube channel. That's where I get my inspiration from. And it's actually him who makes a video a day. That's also why I'm getting into this dynamic. He's really good. His Twitter is totally crazy. He has you can feel the guy actually on Twitter who is angry and wants to make millions. So it's nice that he makes millions of euros. So there you have it. He talks about dexation. He took it easy on the last one. So it hurts. Gael Breton too, authority hacker, says a lot of sites are getting hit hard in 2023. This update has a lot of de-indexing. So it hurts. De-indexing is at the heart of the movements and it's a real issue. So how can we know if we are de-indexed or not? Quite simply, there are several commands that exist. Google Command Site 2.1 is a classic. It's a command that has been around for a long time, widely used. I spent the summer on cbd.fr, most famous domain of the CBD, so we take advantage of it a bit. Goodbye by subtitler.com. It's a command that's becoming less and less functional. Google is gradually bringing it down and letting it fall. So basically, that's it. We have, it's 2 points, it still works. At my place, there are people I know it no longer works for them, in the sense that it no longer gives a number of results, etc. It's not perfect as a method type of points. It's surely the least good of the three that I will introduce to you. The second method that works pretty well is URL 2.1. So this, it always works a bit better than Site 2.1 URL. But it works well on URLs, regardless of gender, whenever you use pas and no. Well, note, it does the same thing when it's 2.9. It's working a bit better. I think it's going to fall too. I'm not quite sure what was said. I'm not exactly on top of all that. Because the best method is the third one, quite simply. So here you go. Take a paragraph. So actually what I did was I went on this website. I took the first paragraph of content that was clean. Right there, there's no update. There's no, without any formatting or anything. So I just take a paragraph. I've copied and pasted it here. I've put the quotes with the quotes. So we're sure to have exactly what this paragraph and this paragraph only, that all the keywords be included, etc. You can omit them. Honestly, it won't make much difference. You'll see. Just like that, back on it is perfect. And I think the search went through without the quotes. But when I do it, I redo it left to check, just like that, quickly done, showing that this is live. And there you go. No results found. So not exactly with this thing, but it finds it without, and we'll land on it right away. So there you go. We see the URL is indexed. We did the search. It works well. I didn't do the research. I should have done that actually. To take a domain that was de-indexed and perform the same search to see how much it would reappear or not. But typically, if I had done that with a de-indexed domain, it wouldn't have come back, for your information. So there you go. Then there are questions that might come up that are, why are we getting de-indexed? What are the causes of de-indexing? Where does it come from? What's happening? And so quite simply, there are several things. The first thing, the big classic, is the manual penalty. It's Google telling you your site is penalized. They saw you were doing SEO. By doing SEO, I mean aggressive SEO. SEO the way we French people, or those of us making some money on the internet in publishing mode, mentioning all the spammy stuff. So in the case of Jacky Chou, he manually took action, and there it is on his blog. He got totally slammed on his blog. He's given his permanent contract in Farnham Lewell. So here we go. He's linked up on his blog, pen and manual. His whole site, his whole blog is delisted. Okay, not cool for him. Other reasons why we might get indexed. I'm checking my notes. Yeah, the DMCA. Well, I talked about the DMCA yesterday. I'll check something quickly. That's it. There's a little aspect, blog post on how to counter nautism of MCA. By the way, the EDEMSA is a resource on the human database. I didn't tell you last time. I might do an entire article, a whole video on EDEMSA sometime to give you all the history, etc. and to provide examples. But you can counter a DMCA. So here you have a link to counter the DMCA with the explanation, etc. I'll put it in the video comment. If you ever fall victim to an MCA, it could be an opportunity to counter it. And finally, on the last update, it seems there was no de-indexing on AI content. So there you go. I was already pushing on Twitter in the beginning, but there's a lot about AI content in general and about the delisting above. What do we do if we have URLs that aren't indexing? Typically, when I launch my website, my URLs don't get indexed. What's happening? The first thing I have to tell you is about WordPress being prone to a lot of spam. In fact, WordPress is free and it's widely used. So if we have to spam the web, we do it with WordPress. In conclusion, imagine you're Google and you arrive at a site and you see it's a WordPress. You are 100 times more likely to get spammed if it's a WordPress than if it's Shopify, for instance. So quite simply, WordPress, if you're spamming, that's where everyone is spamming. So basically, you'll end up in the same category where everyone is spamming. And all the lights will be green for not indexing you. So WordPress is already maybe the hardest CMS to index, even though it is. So feel free to switch up your text. Maybe if you're on e-commerce, give Shopify a chance. I think it wouldn't hurt. Shopify index is much faster than WordPress. The feedback I get from everyone. So don't hesitate if you're in commerce. If you're in a spammy theme, it's not going to help either. I've done gambling. I know what it looks like. And typically gambling content struggles much more to index because in fact there's a lot of spam on the casino theme, for example. There's a lot of it, much more than there are in other themes. It's just that if you are on topics that are very aggressively targeted, Google will think, okay, that we are used to. Imagine Google seeing this every day, tens of thousands of pages with titles and URLs marked casino on WordPress. If you're doing the same thing, Google can't assist you. We could say here, I'm pulling in 100,000 a day. I'll see if I index them or not, but I'll do it later because right now it's taking too much time and energy. On the other hand, if they see a URL talking about recycled plastic water bottles, and if you're on Shopify, well, it's a different dynamic. You might think, all right, this doesn't happen often. Let's not worry too much. Let's just index and send a crawl. It goes fast. We have little content on this. We'll offer more. So this is a bit about spam, and it kind of ties back to a theory called the predictive indexing theory. It's a theory that had been, it was Romain Mikula, my old manager, who had mentioned it to me. I think it was Laurent Bourrely who had told me about it before that. A good old go-to SEO, which meant that basically we look at your URL, we quickly glance at your code, like very, 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 very quickly. But even just your URL structures and the context in which your link was found will make us wonder whether is it worth it to subscribe to the channel or not. Indexer. There's an article about it on I Love SEO by John Moose stating they don't do it. It's in 2022, in June 2022. So it's been about a year and a half, 2 years. Maybe they weren't doing it back then, and they are now. We've had quite a few annexation issues starting from June 2022. That's when the annexation problem started. Funny enough, imagine that was before in 2020. Maybe not 2020, if 2020. Indexing wasn't a problem. It didn't exist. It wasn't a topic. Everyone was indexed automatically very quickly. So it was such a pleasure. Since then, things have really changed. Predictive indexing. Imagine your link has been found, for instance, on something typically associated with spam. In fact, we use artificial intelligence. We come across your link on something where it's the same type of spam that's been, and when we see that it's WordPress and we see that these are typically a bit spammed keywords, well, we'll say, you know what, it's not even worth checking site because under these conditions, we are 9% sure it's spam. So Google won't even crawl, won't even go there, won't access it. So there you have it, you're doomed. That's pretty much all the technical side of what he knows how to do. Come on, hurt yourself. All right, we're getting there smoothly. 2/3 of the way through our video. What are the solutions to solve the crawl issue? First solution, it's something I do by default. Force the indexing. We go to the search console. We force the indexing. It's quite simple. You put your URL in the search system and you'll see you can just put explore this URL or something like that if it's not enough. We have indexes that exist which are pretty good. Indexmenow, you've got a V4 already, GG. The GG team and Mr. Stefan Madaleno for this beautiful indexer. So what does indexmenow do? Is a URL index. It's quite expensive, not going to lie. Most indexers are cheaper than that. They are at €1 per URL. But hey, it works great, and we're not using a traditional Google method, like the conventional way with indexing APIs, etc. On the free side, for example, using the indexing API, you have SEO Press. It does it with SEO Press inside indexing API. So if you want a free method, you can try this one. It needs setting up. It's a bit more annoying. It's a bit more technical. I believe I've never managed to set it up right. But hey, if you watch tutorials online, you'll see it's not that complicated either. It can be done. Thinking back, there's foudroyer. I wrote it down, a French tool that does indexing with Google's indexing API, but it does it in a paying way, which is a bit of a shame when you know that here we can do it for free. But hey, it's a bit of old French, we won't spit on it. And then the few steps that I take for update my content to index my site. Pretty simple first step, I'll update my content. So let's say we go back to this URL, bam, imagine my URL is painted in Excel. I don't quite get why. First thing I usually do, I update my content very slightly just to signal to Google that my site has been updated. The date of the latest update on your article, that's really the ideal situation. Here, let's say we have a date of the last update. That's the thing. The article has been updated, the timing, and if you update it automatically, that's perfect. Typically, very light update, thoughtful and deliberate use. Let's say use not measured and conscious. What word am I looking for? Use, I forgot my password. Oh, well. So in short, I'm out of ideas, I'm sorry. Take any part, swap a word 3 times, replace it with synonyms. You update your last updated date. You go online and that should normally help you. Then, if you don't have a link on the URL, typically for this one, we know we have 0 incoming links. We'll check on href, I think that's the case. No incoming links, nothing at all. So what do? We start by adding a link or 2. You can go to Nkuma for some inexpensive backlinking, always as a referral. It's the best way to get some free links. So put the links at the top so that Google detects them, sees that there's a link, and the usual signals we see in spam, etc. What you think of it? When we use Google, well, look at that. He bought some Google. In other words, it means that, oh, look, people are talking about him on the internet. It's not the usual spammy URL stuff. So it can index you. It will always be good for the site's authority. So we're not going to turn it down. What's our methodology after that? Then we can change the URL. Oh, that's not enough. Every time I tell you we do this, we wait 3 days, we see what happens. So now if we do this and change the URL, what happens? And so if we change the URL a little, so 3-1 if possible when changing URLs. But imagine if we put pastek with an S, change 1 or 2 things, remove the word spray. The goal is just for Google to think that a change has been made and that it reconsiders the URL, that it rethinks the whole model it went through, because actually it does its crawling and indexing system at the URL. So if you make a word change or a very quick URL change, it makes it reconsider the URL, and yet it's going to say, okay, well, finally the index, I changed my mind because there were some minor changes to be made because there are 2 links coming to it now, etc. This time I'll index it. Maybe last time it didn't have time, maybe this time it does have time, maybe it has. It's quite challenging to figure out what Google thinks, so he has a method that works occasionally. Then switch the URL and completely change the content. When you make a small URL change, alter a tiny bit of content, so Google doesn't just settle for it being pure duplication. In DOS mode, then DOS stands for URL duplication, SM to content, no, I don't remember, dist, duplication, just like that. Duplicate are there. Duplicate HTML, it's mtext, that's it. Thanks CMJuice for the article. Duplicate URL mtext is like you have exactly the same content on the page, but it's not the same URL. That's pure and hard duplicate content. Coming in with stuff like if you have lots of chorus strings and they are not canonical, that's what happens. So Google won't think it's just spam. Change the content slightly once more, so Google thinks, there's been a small change, it's a bit different, reconsider it, retransform. All that at the same time can work. And finally, if it still doesn't work, last method, we completely change the URL, this time change it more violently. And finally, you change all the content, you rewrite everything. That's something that works, but it gets extremely violent because we changed this URL 2 or 3 times in terms of the links we added at the beginning. It's not great. As for the content, we had to fold back some, remove others. It's a bit of a pity. a bit one of the few ways we have to make Google completely reconsider its content, its page. So this is one of the last methods that works. If none of that works, honestly, expect to start over sometimes. It's often just a matter of timing, just a page issue, etc. So there you have it. Hoping this method will help you move up a level, allowing you to index easily and straightforwardly. So don't hesitate. Once again, if you need help with indexing, feel free to ping me. And I'll put the links to articles and tools in the description. That's it for now. Wishing you a good day and hoping this update goes smoothly regarding indexing issues.